Okay, great. Everybody ready? All right, good evening, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. Meeting of the Carver Select Board for Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. This meeting will be broadcast live and are also recorded by Area 58 Community Access Media Channel 9 and will be posted by Area 58 on YouTube as soon as possible. And I believe we're actually broadcasting live on YouTube. There are openings on several committees. Please refer to the front page on our website for a listing and application. If we could all stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Ryan, if you could read our community prayer.
Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all those who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility, and especially we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we've been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek, and keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. All right, our first item this evening, as always, is citizens' participation. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the board? Ms. Ferrand?
Donna Foran, 27-8 South Meadow Village. Obviously, you're also going to be speaking in a little while in reference to the MBTA 3A zoning. And when we're selecting our next chief of police, it's really important to keep that in mind as well. But I just wanted to say very huge thank you to Chief Dufali and Deputy Chief Sarmento for their dedication and commitment to bring our police department to the very best it can be. Your leadership has made a real difference, and we truly appreciate all you've accomplished. As we move forward in selecting the next chief, I believe one of the most important questions to ask each candidate is, how do you believe the current officers would view you as the next leader? Equally important, I would hope that in a private setting, you also hear directly from the officers themselves, those willing to share their perspective about the kind of leadership they feel would best serve both our community and them. The person we choose must be more than an excellent law enforcement professional. They must also be a strong business manager, capable of making tough decisions in tough times, an advocate for the staff, a protector of the public, and someone who upholds the laws of our state with integrity. Just as importantly, they must be a leader who understands our community as it is today, while guiding us confidently into the future. A great department begins with great leadership, and it starts at the top and flows through every rank, every officer, and every interaction with the public. In closing, again, I just want to thank again Chief Dufali and Deputy Chief Sarmento for their leadership. But I want to once again say thank you to all of you for the tough road ahead in deciding our next chief for our town. I strongly encourage you to listen closely to the officers about who they believe should be the next chief. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item, which is a discussion and possible vote on Chapter 61A land, right of first refusal with respect to intent to convert a portion of its land situated at 0 Indian Street for proposing a residential use, map 92, lot 1. And just at the beginning of this, let me just say to the board, I don't anticipate a vote on this tonight. The town administrator is still working to identify a funding source. We do have recommendations from planning and Conservation that we act on this land, and I have invited representatives of those boards here to just let us know why they are recommending that we exercise our right of first refusal. If I could ask you folks to just step up and join us for a couple of minutes and just pass on your thoughts. Mr. Bott, do you want to join us as well, or?
I feel very confident in the people you've selected.
Okay, thank you. All
Good
right,
evening.
folks. Good evening.
Mary Ellen
Thanks.
Williams, Chair of the Planning Board.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was our choice to vote, and we voted unanimously to opt for exercising our right of first refusal on the land because it not only does it abut the Buzzards Bay Coalition. For that reason, primarily, I think we thought it would be good for conservation and/or open space purposes, and perhaps, you know, they might have an interest in that as well. Can't speak for them, but it seems like a perfect location to just kind of preserve that open space on Indian Street.
Okay, great. Thank
All
you.
right.
Does anyone have questions for Ms. Williams? No? Oh, Ms. Ewens?
So, Ms. Williams, this land abuts the Buzzards Bay Coalition conservation land
Yes,
and also the Indian Street conservation land as well that currently belongs to the town. It's the next abutter.
the next one, yes, but it's not adjacent to the lot, correct?
Right.
Yeah, no, I know. So it seems appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, and at the meeting, it was unclear what the consideration was because it was set forth in the purchase and sale agreement that it was contingent upon how many lots they could secure. But when we thought about it, that was presented to us, I believe, in April, and we voted on the A&R plan. So we were looking at the P&S being either 150 for one lot or 300,000 if they could carve out the two. And we realized then that it was determined in April that the A&R was granted, of course. So it would be for consideration of 300,000.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay,
I do have a question. I'm just looking at, if I'm getting it right, the picture of the actual lot themselves.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to figure out how it's an A&R lot. You know, is this a bog right in the middle of it and just in a frontage and?
Well, they brought forward the plan, so they created, there's the frontage here, the frontage that we went around it.
So there'll be roads going in, or driveways on each side probably? So-
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's on our computers, too.
it is on our
Mr. Chair.
computers.
They definitely get a little creative,
Yeah.
but it met all the requirements, hence approval not required. Yeah.
Thank you.
All set?
We also have our conservation agent here. Why don't you just
Okay,
hang with us
very
for a
good.
minute if you don't mind.
Will do.
Sir?
I was just going to let Dave Hall as vice chair of the
Okay.
Conservation.
Yeah, so Dave Hall, Vice Chair of the Conservation Commission. We unanimously also voted for the town to exercise its right for first refusal. And one of the reasons was not only that whole area, Indian Street, lots are being developed one after another, being squeezed in there really tight. We did allow them to, that one, there's a lot of back and forth on it. We did permit it for conservation, just so they met the requirements to get 100 feet away from the bog and so forth. But we still feel like, in the spirit of maintaining the semi-rural character of Carver, that it would be a good piece of property for the town to buy, or for Buzzards Bay to buy. And because it's adjacent to the Buzzards Bay property, which is also adjacent to the town property. And Emil has some interesting developments on this too, about, he's spoken to Buzzards Bay a little bit here, and maybe you can
Yes.
enlighten you on that a little bit.
Yes, so the Conservation Commission got this as the notice of intent to convert this from 61A agriculture to residential use. And the commission was familiar with this property. They had recently issued a permit for the developer to build a house on this property. It met the setback. It was outside of 100 feet from the bog on the site. I was kind of surprised that they were able to squeeze it in there. It's a very, if you look at the A&R plan, it's a very tight lot there. But there's actually two lots. The second lot was denied by the commission because they weren't able to get the house outside of 100 feet from the cranberry bog. When it comes to the right of first refusal, the commission, they recommended that the town exercise that right because the property is adjacent to a number of conservation parcels in the town. There's an 18-acre Buzzards Bay Coalition property directly behind this property. And there's also a 29.2 acre parcel that's actually, it is abutting this property, but there's a wetland that runs in between the properties. And then that Indian Street property actually runs all the way out to Route 58. It's a weird shaped parcel, and there are conservation parcels owned by the Buzzards Bay Coalition on the other side of that, as well as the Wildlands Trust. So we kind of have like this little like wildlife corridor back there. There are wetlands in the area. So I think that's why the Conservation Commission recommended this. And I have spoken to the Buzzards Bay Coalition. One of the regulations of the 61A right of first refusal is that the town has the right to assign its right of first refusal to a nonprofit conservation organization, which the Buzzards Bay Coalition is. So that is another opportunity that I wanted to bring to your attention because the Buzzards Bay Coalition is directly behind this property. They don't actually have any frontage on the street. So it is potentially something that they'd be interested in. I have had preliminary discussion with their real estate project manager, and he would like to come out and take a look at the property. So I am planning to meet with him next week to do that.
Yeah, and that is something that the town administrator is working on, and that's one of the reasons why we're not going to make a decision tonight, because we are waiting to see some undefinite funding. Ms. Hill?
So, Mr. Singh, so this property, the Buzzards Bay Coalition might be interested in purchasing it. Would they also be if they are not interested in purchasing it, would they be interested in, if the town bought the property with conservation trust funds, would they be holding the conservation restriction?
So I am not aware of whether they're interested in purchasing it. I know that they're interested in taking a look at the property, which is why they're planning to meet with me out there.
Okay.
The property, from like the street is, it's kind of been stripped of vegetation. So, it kind of needs some, rehabilitation if it's going to be like a, just a aesthetically pleasing property. So I think
Mr. Singh, could you make sure you speak into the
Sure.
microphone, please?
So I think Buzzards Bay Coalition, they're great stewards of the land. They have properties in Carver, they have properties around our general area, and they do a good job taking care of their properties. So I'm not aware if they're interested in purchasing it. That's something that, still have to, discuss. But I think if the town was to take the property and buy the property with town funds, then we would be in charge, someone in the town, with the select board or the recreation department or the conservation commission, someone would have to take charge of that property and, whether or not it's left as, open space, how it is, or something is actually done in terms of like creating access in that area. I don't know. I don't think the Buzzards Bay Coalition would hold a CR necessarily.
They could.
Over it. I mean, that would be a whole nother conversation, but.
It's just the town can't hold the conservation restriction.
Yeah, and these are some of the things we need to work out for our next meeting, and you're going to have more information on that, and certainly if we are to take action on a purchase, we're going to need to identify the funding source, both
Correct.
for us and for town meeting.
Yes.
So, okay, Mr. Ryan.
Are we up against any deadlines?
We do have 120 days from the initial submission to the town. Should be
And what-
date stamped on here, but we still have time.
And conveniently, we have a town meeting scheduled.
Correct, and that's one of the things that does work in our favor.
Yeah.
The last time this was in front of the board,
We didn't
we
have
didn't have a town meeting scheduled,
Right.
which takes time. And so July 14th was the day we stamped it. So
July 14th.
120 days.
Okay,
So 120 days would be what?
okay.
September.
Thank you, gentlemen.
October?
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We do have the owners of the property here, and I guess if they want to say anything to the board, I want to give you an opportunity to do that, if there's anything you'd like to say. If you do, please just come up to the microphone and introduce yourself for the folks at home.
Emil Taya on behalf of ADGA Realty. We have full faith in the board and the town if they wish to exercise their right to purchase it. There's nothing that we have to add, and if the neighbors and/or the coalition wish to make an offer, we'll hear it. But we do honor the time frame as well. So if October would be the deadline, that would be where we're hoping not to.
It should be November, right?
Or
November,
Yeah.
because it'd be 4 months.
And again, we have a special town meeting right now scheduled for October 7th, so there's plenty of time to get
Because
this.
we just don't want to prolong the situation for the buyer as well, just for them to have their opportunity.
Appreciate it.
And
Thank
I
you.
have one
Yes.
more question. So I just wanted to, sorry, I'm having trouble with this thing here. So the lot that's shown, the 4.09 acres, indicated as 92-1, is that the lot?
I don't have it in front of me. I would assume so.
I believe it is.
Doug Crane from Jack Conley Company. So the lot we're referencing here is more like 1.8 acres. It's
in good shape.
and this may not be as updated as the one you have there. This is the one attached to the purchase and sale agreement.
Because originally, and I
But
can,
so originally we're trying for the two L-shaped lots.
Yes.
yeah, I'll continue that. So we have one large parcel that we divided up into 3 parcels. We would be continuing running our cranberries on the cranberry bed itself, and then the 2 parcels on either side would be house lots and/or,
I know it's very difficult.
Conservation.
So
The
so the
cranberry
two-
bog is in the middle.
Yes.
And the 2 building lots are on either
Okay.
side.
So,
And it seems that there would be an acre and change for each, 1.45 and...
so are you
1.49.
offering both of those L-shaped lots? together?
Yes. Today, we were anticipating coming on for 1 lot, but we will be in front of you for the second, but to be efficient for the town and our potential buyer as well, we would be offering both at the same time.
Okay, so the $300,000 price is for both lots?
Correct.
Okay, just
But
checking.
not the bog in the middle.
Not the bog.
coalition actually had an offer, an active offer on this when the property was listed. They attempted to purchase it. But the requirement they had was that the cranberry bog in the middle was included in that purchase, and ADGA was not willing to do that. So,
Because for the consideration that's on the table, we would not be willing to do that. But at a price that's greater than the 300, we would come to a number.
Sounds like we need to have some discussions
Yeah.
before our next meeting. And Mr. Cannon, please, for future meetings where we have this type of land or we're discussing land, can you try to have it ready to be up on the
Yes.
on the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Everyone good? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you all for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is a review of our preliminary listing of warrant articles for the October 7th special town meeting, and also a discussion and possible vote to send any zoning articles to the planning board. The board currently anticipates the following zoning articles: MBTA zoning bylaw amendment, zoning bylaw amendment for property off Shoestring Road, as known as Jellystone Park, by petition, redevelopment for property off Shoestring Road and known as Jellystone Park by petition, I think I read that twice, and redevelopment authority request for zoning bylaw amendment with respect to Green Business Park, also by petition.
They all disappear.
Now, Mr. Cannon, last night I spoke to you quickly and you indicated there were no petition articles that had been received. Has that changed?
So the petition articles that have been received have been for Jellystone Park.
Okay, so
And then-
that has changed?
Yes, it has
Okay.
changed, yes.
All right.
Yes, Jellystone Park did come in before the deadline. As it's presented on the agenda, the redevelopment authority request for zoning bylaw amendment with respect to the Green Business Park by petition came in after the deadline.
Okay.
So I rejected that, but they had petitioned the board to bring an article forward.
Yes.
So not a petition article, but.
That's right, and they'll be invited to our September 2nd meeting
Yes.
to discuss the merits of that article.
Yes.
And we can make a decision on that at that time. So do you want to go through this list of articles? And do you need a vote tonight to send those zoning articles to the planning board?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right, so when we get to those articles, we can discuss that and take that vote. Other than that, we're not taking any votes on articles tonight. All we're really doing is just letting the board know what's coming, and on September 2nd, we'll be taking
Correct.
some actions on that. There are a couple of these, though, like certainly like the unpaid bills from previous years. That's a pretty standard article. I don't think there's any reason we couldn't take a vote tonight to put that on the warrant. I mean, unless there's an issue.
No, I don't think there's an issue, Mr. Chairman, but I would wait until we have the draft warrant in front of you. So
All right, well, wait, that's true. We don't have the draft warrant
And it's more comprehensive
yet.
that way, too.
Okay, let's go through them.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to, I apologize. There is another petition article that did come forward.
Okay.
It is not a zoning article. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
So there is a petition article for this 40B, and it's listed as Pine Tree Village Mobile Home Park to be counted towards the affordable housing stock
Okay.
in Carver.
Only Pine Tree Village or all the parks?
I thought it was all the parks. We will double check with
Okay.
that. That's why I think it's good to have the full warrant,
Yes,
the
it will
draft
be.
warrant in front of you.
Okay.
And I know I've heard of this in other communities also. You know, other towns have mobile home parks and they all want to count to affordable housing. I can tell you, I know it's the land underneath that the state is concerned with. So again, we'll see what the petition goes and we can have that discussion.
So could you clarify, the land underneath would be considered affordable?
Well, that's what the state is always looking for. They're always looking for the land underneath the mobile home, if you will. That's why they generally do reject mobile homes as being affordable homes.
Why don't we go through these one by one, and when we get to that spot, if you don't mind, that way we'll keep us from jumping all over the place. So the first one we have is unpaid bills from previous years.
Yeah, so it's just, again, a standard article that we have for unpaid bills.
Do you have through you, Mr. Chair, do you have a total number? What's the unpaid bills number?
I don't have the... Sorry. $1,208.91. And it looks like it's 5 bills.
It's fine.
Okay. Next is fire department salaries.
Yes, unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, during budget season, the 2% COLA given to the employees in the town of Carver were not calculated into the call firefighters' salaries. It was an oversight. We apologize for that, and it's something that needs to be corrected.
Okay, so we need to address that. The next, anyone have questions on that? Okay, next is the transfer from free cash for the municipal and school wells, and that's to fix some of the problems that's been happening here with the town well, correct?
Correct. We've had multiple issues here with the town well, and we want to address those with an article. It's going to take some funding. There was also a requirement, if you remember, from DEP to put in a redundancy well here at Town Hall.
Yep.
So again, we need funding for that.
Okay.
I was
Mr.
gonna ask
Carter
what-
first.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No,
Are you going to ask the same question?
I don't know. So why does it have to, a transfer from the reserve fund, wouldn't operations just go to the finance committee and say?
We're going to look for an
requesting funds?
alternative funding source. I know that's the way it's listed on the summary sheet. We're going to look for an alternative funding source. I agree with you, Mr. Carter. If we only wanted to go to the reserve fund, we could go to the reserve fund and ask for the money. We want to maintain the reserve fund for a true emergency because we have a special town meeting coming up. We want to put it in the special town meeting.
And do you have a ballpark number for what you're going to need for the municipal well?
Approximately $40,000, $37,000 and change.
Okay. And I was going to ask, what is the balance of free cash, and didn't we use all that at the previous
We're
town
going to
meeting?
look for alternative funding sources.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to come from free cash either.
All right.
We'll
Yeah, it
we'll
just
find out.
happens to
Again,
say
this is why we're doing a lot of the votes on this at the next meeting. We just
Correct.
wanted to let the board know
That doesn't
what's
Correct.
coming.
This is good
That-
feedback
that's
for us,
all.
too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So next is a transfer from free cash for the purchase of 0 Indian Street. We just discussed that.
Correct, and we
So-
did list this, again, if Buzzards Bay Coalition doesn't come forward and the board still wants to move forward, we will find a funding source for that. Probably won't come from free cash, might come from a stabilization fund, but we'll let the board know.
If I may, Mr. Chair? Yeah, it could also potentially come from the Conservation Land Trust Fund.
Yes, it could.
If the
And we've
con-
had
if-
some initial discussions about that
If the
also.
commission's okay with that.
Correct.
yeah.
Okay, next is North Carver Water District, $500,000 article. This came from the North Carver Water District.
Correct, this came in from the North Carver Water District. I don't have an awful lot of information on this. It's my understanding that they are looking to conduct a wide-ranging engineering study to bring it up to speed, to get it back up functioning, even to convert it to a sand filter system. So it's and I believe there's even at least engineering for a water tower in there. So it's a wide-ranging discussion. Well, that'll be a discussion for us to have on
Okay,
September 2nd.
it doesn't sound like they've had a lot of discussions with you about this?
They have not. They've
Okay.
had no discussions with me, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Okay, anything? Stop me if you have a question, please. Next is a veterans exemption.
Correct. So there is currently a veterans exemption in the town of Carver, and that is through clause 22 through clause 22F. This is clause 22G, and it really is for disabled veterans who meet numerous criteria in order to get the exemption from their real estate taxes. I'm sorry. And what it is, the difference being, is that this would be if the veterans agent home is in a trust. So it's a minute detail, but as I would say, as veterans are getting older and more of their properties are going into trusts, they are trying to protect the trust. And it's my understanding it's a percentage of their real estate taxes. So I'm doing.
Okay, next on the list is the battery storage facility, and I believe this is probably listed incorrectly. This is really the pilot agreement for the battery storage facility, correct?
This is the pilot agreement.
Okay. Where does that stand?
We have an article right now where they're in very good shape with it. They feel like they're confident to move forward to the special town meeting.
So do you feel that by our next meeting we'll have something more definite to
Yes.
talk about?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. Okay, next is a zoning amendment to the Green Business Park to allow earth removal.
Correct. So if you go through the zoning bylaws in town, there are certain sections of town where you cannot conduct earth removal, and the Green Business Park is one of those. And I'm going to let Ms. Ewan to speak to this. She has the history that's better than I do. They are looking to change that. They want to allow earth removal within the Green Business Park.
Okay. All right, is this something you need us to refer?
We do need that, yes, we do need that to be a referral. I don't know if you want to do them all at once or if you want to wait.
No, I think we probably should do
Okay.
them individually. Is there a motion to refer this to the planning board? Is that for the purpose of holding a hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, which one? The Green Business Park?
Yeah.
correct.
So we have to vote to defer it to the,
Well,
To refer it, yes.
refer it to them. And that doesn't commit us to putting it on the warrant
No.
or not putting it on the warrant.
Correct,
All in-
right,
right.
Right. and we
just so they
discuss-
can have a hearing.
Right.
All right, so moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Next is a zoning amendment to accessory apartments.
I do see Mr. Bott here. Could I call him to the table on this? Accessory apartments, Mr. Bott? Could you give us a quick? Let's take advantage of my expert.
Is this on the ADUs, Mr. Pott? Is that what
Yes.
this is?
So I'm Tom Bott, I'm the town planner here in Carver, Mass.
Thank
And we recently adopted the ADU bylaw at the April town meeting. The Attorney General, in their approval letter of July 30th, conditionally approved or conditionally disapproved our warrant article, and asked to strike some language in it, largely referencing single-family residences versus dwellings. It's a tad bit of minutia in there, but the number of items that the Attorney General pointed out that shall be deleted are what's represented on the zoning article that I put together. There were some other suggestions that they had mentioned as well. I formatted changes to the bylaw and formed the town council for them to look at some time back. With the references, it says at a future town meeting. So town council had opted to put them under this particular warrant. But they have to go to a future town meeting, whether it's this one or in the spring. But essentially, the changes to the ADU are the ones the Attorney General is requiring because the changes we make didn't quite pass muster with their review regarding single-family dwellings. It's a dwelling versus single-family dwellings. It's sort of that level of minutia.
Okay. And again, this needs to go to the planning board so they can hold a hearing.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous, thank you. Mr. Bott, thank you for that information.
You're welcome.
Next is the non-binding referendum to sell the Carver, Marion, Wareham Regional Refuse District Disposal District.
If the chairman wants.
That's right, Mr. Chairman.
We were approached by the town of Wareham. They're interested in purchasing the entire district or the entire site. And we've talked to them about, next steps going forward, and we all decided that, well, I think we're set up that these individual committees have the right to decide whether they want to dissolve and sell these parcels. We thought it'd be better to go to town meeting and get feedback from residents. So basically, kind of like round numbers, there's really two assets. There's cash in the bank, roughly about $1 million. There's land that's been assessed at three prices. I think it would, correct me if I'm wrong, 5, 7, and $1 million, something like that. So you figure if we could be looking at $450,000 to $50,000 should they turn on and sell it based on the allocation on what our 5-year assessed value calculation. So we just want to bring it to town meeting. We do want to maybe add to this that we're also looking to enter into a long-term contract so that residents that currently use the district will still be able to use that at a nominal fee.
So I guess the question would be, it's a non-binding referendum to sell. Do you think we'll have a price by the time we get to October 7th?
When we left our last meeting, we did talk to Wareham to say what were they thinking of for a price, for this.
Yeah.
Because again, we've got the 3 different appraisals going on, and my feeling is I think the tax value is around $750,000. So, that's what I'm thinking they might come back with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but do you think we'll have that number by October 7th?
We have our next meeting, by October 2nd, yeah. Yeah, we'll have a
Okay.
number by then.
Okay, thank you. And I assume the next article, the non-binding referendum to dissolve the Carver, Marion, Wareham Regional Refuse Disposal District Committee pertains to the previous question.
Yes.
Right.
First you have to, I guess, dissolve it to sell it.
Well, I was gonna say, I think once you sell it to Wareham,
If you sell
you might as
it-
well dissolve, you really have nothing left to
Right, there's
hold
nothing
on
left
to.
to beat there. Okay, next, we all know what that is, the MBTA zoning bylaw.
And again, this would be a referral back to the planning board. What do I want to say? This is belts and suspenders. I did talk to town council about this. The planning board is actively engaged in this, but it doesn't hurt.
Do we have a status on the state of it?
They are, so Mr.
Yep.
Bott?
Mr.
Bott's
Bott?
still here.
Yep, yes, he is.
I like having Mr. Bott.
Welcome once again, Mr. Bott.
Good evening. I walked slowly, just in case, back to my seat. So we are currently working with Barrett Planning on developing a bylaw for the MBT zoning district. We're also developing locations where it would be at. So that is an iterative process with the state. We identify an area we think complies to state checks to make sure we're not putting the zoning out in the Great Cedar Swamp to make it unbuildable. So we're in the process of identifying the areas and writing the zoning bylaw for which. Right now, the schedule is originally anticipated we might be opening the hearings for this on September 9th. But given that we don't have anything to advertise at this point, likely best case scenario would be opening the hearings for this on September 16th. We've got a couple zoning articles. So on the 9th, we'll open the hearing for ADUs and for any petition articles that pass muster. And then likely later on that second hearing, we would be talking about the MBTA zoning bylaw, depending on when we've got a draft, because you've got to have a draft to advertise something. And the combination between when the draft is and when the posting of the warrant is, razor thin, because we started this in July. But that's where we're at. We're working towards that. We're working towards identifying the area and working towards developing the bylaw for hearings that allegedly or potentially to start on September 16th.
Yeah.
We've scheduled all those meetings for the police station, just because there's a little bigger space over there, and in the unlikely event that the select board decided to meet on a night the planning board might be meeting in this room, we thought it'd be more convenient just to have everything scheduled for over there.
It's a great idea. And again, I think the the process for this started at the joint meeting we held here with the planning board, and obviously I don't have to revisit this. I know how strongly we all felt that this is a bad law, but unfortunately, the state is forcing us to comply, so, that's where we're at. We'll see what they, yes.
And if I may continue with an invitation. So the select board is always welcome to attend the planning board's meetings and discuss these things. As we've talked about with our consultant, these things tend to pass town meeting when the select board supports them. So while you don't care for it and you don't want it, if you want it to pass, your participation, your support are one of those issues that can change votes. It's a 50% plus one vote.
Well, I mean, this will come back to the board at some point, and the board will take a vote to put it on the warrant or not, and the board will take a vote whether to support it or not. And there'll be a time for that. Yes, Ms. Ewens.
Thank you. Mr. Bott, would you be able to go into, I'm happy to do this, but I thought you might be able to go into the reason that we're legally required to do this. It went to a district court judge, superior court judge, I think.
Yeah, it's the law, for one, and it's been appealed on a number of different cases. I think the town of Carver was looking at joining a case that Duxbury and others were in, and that case was dismissed shortly before we got involved.
And that was a number of towns. The
Yeah,
judge,
I think there was 8 towns involved in
8
that.
towns, and the judge dismissed them all.
Correct.
And he said the law's legal and there's no unfunded mandate.
Yes, and the unfunded mandate issue was there's not an unfunded mandate to create zoning because zoning is a regular function of towns. So the case was this is an unfunded mandate because people thought, well, you're making towns build housing. But what you're making towns do is create zoning, and creating zoning is a regular function of town government.
Unfortunately, zoning is a regular function of the town that the state is taking over and forcing us to.
Yeah,
Forcing us to pass.
that's the whole point. And I just wanted people at home to understand that there are lots of other towns, and we were planning to join that lawsuit, but everyone has just withdrawn because nobody's going to win. I take it that's...
Yeah, and in some of the areas that we're looking at, one particular at 30 to 32 West Street is currently let's call it an auto recycling place because I don't think you can call them junkyards anymore, but it's a junkyard, and it's likely a contaminated site as well. So anybody who wants to develop that site for housing would have to buy the property and do whatever sort of cleanup is on the property to get it to a level of cleanliness for housing. So if for some reason someone was to decide to pull the trigger and use the zoning, the benefit would be you'd be cleaning up likely contaminated site in your town, and you'd likely be getting some housing out of it as well. But the higher the threshold is for development costs, the least likely they are. As I've said on numerous occasions, the town hasn't had a 40B in decades because the numbers don't work out for developers who are doing larger scope sort of development. There will be an affordable component to the MBTA zoning bylaw, likely 10%. The 20% requirement for MBTA has put us to the point where it hasn't been viable for developers to do this. It doesn't pencil out because of the development costs they have to do and the market rate units they have to sell to support the affordable units. Just doesn't work out for developers. So there'll be 100 towns that have this. So under the law of supply and demand, there'll be 100 places people could go to do this zoning. Likely places that have water, that have sewer, that have that infrastructure in place, and likely to have lower development costs and closer to amenities that people would like to see. So while I encourage the town to comply with the law, vote the zoning article, the likelihood that something's going to be built, particularly on some of the spots we're looking at, is a possibility, but one that is fraught with financial peril for anybody who wants to consider doing that.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Bott.
So I'll make a motion to refer the MBTA zoning bylaw to the planning board.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question. Is there a reason, you mentioned those parcels that they're looking at, is there a reason why we didn't look at the North Carver overlay district with the North Carver water district there in that section?
Yeah, I brought likely 8 different locations to the board since December of 2024. And the board has been looking at them, vetting them, and then rejecting them as we came across them.
And we can have more discussion on this when it comes to time for a motion to recommend or not. Right now, we have a motion and a second to refer it to the planning board for a hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. We have the zoning amendment for off of Shoestring Road. That's a petition article.
That is, and Mr. Bott may be able to speak to this one.
Okay.
Yes, the folks at Jellystone have petitioned to change the zoning for their property from residential agricultural to general business. As I understand it, they were recently, maybe a couple years ago, given a liquor license, which they couldn't use because the underlying zoning couldn't be RA. So that liquor license is pulled back, and since that point, they have attempted to change the zoning. They've missed a deadline a couple of times. I have said with a very straight face, the folks at Jellystone made a boo-boo and did not, but since then, they've rectified that with a petitioned article on 100 signatures. So they'll be coming to town meeting, asking to rezone those 3 parcels as general business and include them in the planned tourist commercial overlay district.
Okay.
So there's no action on that part.
Well, there's a petition article, so it automatically goes on the warrant, but the planning board still does hold a hearing on it, don't
Correct.
they?
Correct.
So we still need to
Make a
make
motion.
that motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make a motion to refer the zoning amendment for off of Shoestring Road to the planning board.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. And finally, we have the 40B Pine Tree Village Mobile Home Park to be counted toward
Thank you,
10% petition article. Thank you, Mr. Bott, once again.
Correct, a petition article, Mr. Chairman. It does not need a referral back to the planning board. It's a change to the bylaw.
And-
Again, we can have this discussion when we get forward. You know, probably town council might have more experience with this than other
Absolutely, and
towns.
it automatically goes on the warrant anyway. So, I'm sorry, Ms. Ewens, did you?
Yes, I have a question. Who submitted the petition article?
Mr. Belvin. Mr. Belvin.
Sorry, quick question, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but if this was to somehow be granted as affordables, don't you lose a 55 and over status? You can't have both, right?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't
Mr.
believe
Bott.
Pine Tree Village is a 55 and older park.
What am I? What about,
No, Pine
It's
Tree
not.
itself.
but I thought it was
It's not.
all mobile home parks, no?
It says Pine Tree.
I know, but I thought we mentioned earlier that it might be all.
I think it might be all mobile home parks. We'll dig
Find
into
out.
it.
But maybe for the next meeting, could you have a
Yes.
little more clarity on that?
Okay.
Well, certainly with the petition articles, we copy directly.
Exactly as it goes.
Exactly, right.
That's
Copy,
right.
whether there's grammar or spelling mistakes, exactly how it appears.
That's right.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Our next item this evening is our town administrator update.
Sure, just so the board and the residents at home are aware, there is a moderate risk of triple E in the town of Carver. The last I checked, I don't believe a mosquito has been found in Carver, but there have been mosquitoes found in the surrounding communities. It's just that time of the year, you know, we are into August now, so just we always want to be careful anytime we're out, dusk or dawn, to make sure we're taking precautions against mosquitoes. The coal millstone, one of multiple coal millstones, is located in front of the library. Ms. Ewens did correct me on that the last time I spoke. There are multiple coal millstones. There is no plaque right now, but they do hope to have a plaque with that soon and then dedication. The O&M staff did secure a Maya grant for $3,000 for safety gear. I think this is one of the great things about being with the Maya Safety, the insurance group. They don't want you to have accidents. You know, this is for helmets, a safety vest, you know, chaps, chainsaw training, things of that nature. It's a good grant for the town to receive. I think it's very useful for us. Speaking of O&M too, they also have a paving schedule situated for this fall. Bolden Street and Bow Street. So those 2 roads will be repaved this year. And then also, while the paving crew is here, they will be undertaking the COA parking lot. If you recall, we did put $200,000 in a capital item for the repaving. I shouldn't say just the COA parking lot. It's actually the beach parking lot, which is really in worse shape, but the COA parking lot needs some work too. Improvements to the road there and a little bit of expanded parking along the road. So hopefully that will be happening this fall. The Board of Health also has a public health nurse coming on board here. This is a good thing. You know, they'll go down to the COA. Sometimes it's the smallest things that can help out though while they're visiting there. You know, blood pressure checks, glucose monitoring, things of that nature. Just general checkup, and you know, if a person's having trouble, they might be able to refer them, at least encourage them to go see a doctor. So it's a good sign, it's a very good thing. First check. The bathrooms over at the park have been updated, so we're going to take, I haven't had a chance to go and inspect them myself yet, but I've been told they're in much better shape than they were originally. Remember, we had a woman here from the Recreation Department who was concerned about the look of them. So they've been completely remodeled now. The structure's the same, but everything inside has been changed around. So, and I will call out Ms. Weston for initiating this and taking multiple trips over there. Being politically correct, while there are men involved with this, it may need a little bit of extra help. Let me just say that.
Well, thank you, Ms. Weston.
Sorry. One other thing, I did notice this, that Middleborough Water actually won a New England Water Works Association 2025 Utility of the Year Award. I thought that was a good thing for the town of Carver. Right now, they are supplying us water. They are still assisting us with our water. I know the North Carver Water District now has their own distribution system operator, but the town of Middleborough is still assisting us and assisting that operator. You know, he's a one-man show, so you know, I think that's a good thing. They're helping us out with that. It is that time of year again. Also, the Carver Fire Department is looking for volunteers. You'll see their signs around town. I did see the chief a couple weeks ago. I couldn't believe it's been another year already, but they are actively recruiting recruits, so sign up. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cannon. Okay, next, let's see, topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. There are none. We have the approval of the minutes of August 5th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of August 5th, 2025.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous.
Just one abstention, I guess.
Yeah, well, 4-0.
4-0. Yeah.
And next, we have the approval of the executive session minutes of August 5th, 2025.
Is that not for release?
Doesn't say that. Is there any reason not to release those minutes?
Is it approval for a release or not release? Or do we need
Mr. Cannon,
to?
would you
Can we
like
right
to-
now, can we vote not to release?
Can I do that?
Okay.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of August 5th, 2025, not for release.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. All right, next, we have a brief visit from the police chief assessment consultant to give us an overview of the assessment process that went into reviewing our candidates for police chief. Mr. Stevens, are you with us?
I am, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you having me here tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about just a little bit. I just want to give you all a little bit of how we got to the assessment center, some of the exercises that we did, and what we do. So, Public Safety Consultants, we are an assessment company. We strictly do police and fire assessments, and that is all ranks from sergeant all the way up to police chief. We've been in business for approximately 20 years, and this is solely what we do. Myself and Chief Sampson. Chief Sampson started the company about 20 years ago. He's an attorney, and we've been working together for about, going on about 18 years. I've got 41 years in law enforcement. I just retired almost a month to the day ago. I was a police chief for 16 years, and the way we do the assessment is we were asked to come in and just to do an assessment. And the town provided 3 internal candidates. So we developed, first we look at the job description. We look at the town itself, the makeup of the town, the call volume of the town. What a police chief does in Carver is going to be different than what a police chief does in other communities. So we look at the communities themselves first, and then we talk to the police chief and we have conversations with him about what is unique about Carver as it pertains to being the police chief. Then we develop 5 exercises. These are role play exercises where we bring the candidates in. So the first exercise that we developed specifically for your town was a critical incident. Because in Carver, the police chief would be responding to critical incidents. Now, you get to a larger police department in Boston, or not even Boston size, but larger, get up in a couple 100-person departments, depending on the incident would depend on whether the chief would respond or not. But in Carver, he would respond. So we did a critical incident. We also did a citizen complaint in Carver. The Sizemore Police Department, the chief, may not handle all citizen complaints, but in this scenario, this was a scenario that warranted the chief's attention, so we did a citizen's complaint. The critical incident is to make sure the chief or the candidates understand how to respond to a critical incident, what resources they have for the critical incident, both internal resources and external resources, to make sure that they're aware of what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. The citizen complaint is, do they know your complaint policy, the complaint policy for, the internal complaint policy for your department? And was this complaint something that's got to go up to Post? Now, Post is new to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I shouldn't say new, it's been about a year, but it's ever changing. So we want to make sure they know about Post as well. And then the third exercise we held was a staff meeting. And this is where the chief was going to meet with members of his command staff and express 3 areas or 3 pertinent areas that he would like to address in his first 6 months as police chief. We also had scripted questions that the assessors were going to ask back to the chief, that the chief wouldn't, the candidate wouldn't know. So the candidate would come in, express or tell us what he was going to do. This is an interactive exercise, and then the role players were playing that of command staff members and would ask back questions to the chief. The fourth exercise was a harassment complaint exercise where a member of the department was making a complaint against a supervisor. And we did this to see if the candidate, whoever the chief is, has to be able to handle internal complaints. Do you know what to do? What type of personnel issue are we dealing with here? Is this something that can be handled internally? Is this something that goes up to the town administrator or town manager, depending on where the town is, or the select board? So it depends on the town, would depend on how far this goes. And then the last one is what we call panel questions. The panel questions are several questions that are asked, short questions that are asked more in an oral board style. So those are the 5 exercises we asked each of the candidates. Now, it's an all-day assessment center where the candidates come in at 7:30 in the morning, we meet. They're issued fictitious names. The assessors go in blind. Ethical consideration guidelines for assessment centers require our assessors to go in blind. And what I mean by that is, they don't know your candidates' backgrounds, they don't know their degree level, they don't know how long they've been within the department, they know nothing about the candidates. They can only score the candidates on their responses to the role play exercises. So we don't take any consideration for your candidate's background, for their education level, how long they've been on, and what they've done. Like I said, ethical consideration guidelines for assessment centers require us to go in blind. The candidates are given fictitious names. They wear a lanyard around their neck with a fictitious name. They are Chief Adams, Chief Baker, and Chief Collins for the day. After the candidate Adams comes in, does exercise 1, candidate Adams leaves. Candidate Adams gets scored. Candidate Baker comes in, does exercise 1, candidate Baker gets scored and leaves. Candidate Collins comes in. So we score each candidate immediately after the candidate leaves. They don't necessarily get compared to one another. They're being compared to a defensible set of standards that they have to meet. So at the very end, we have a score for each one of the 5 exercises, and then we have an overall score of the assessment. Each one of your candidates, your candidates from the very first to the 3rd candidate, and I'm not going to be discussing, unless we're in executive session, I'm not going to be discussing the scores, but each one of your candidates, you had one candidate that scored in the higher well-qualified, and then you had one that scored and 2 that scored in the lower well-qualified section. The assessment center gives us insight into the candidates and how well they'll perform in the role of being police chief. Any questions up to now? I talk a lot, but I'm very much into this. I've been doing assessment center so long, I'm very much into it, and I like talking about it, but do you have any questions so far?
Mr. Stevens, I do have one. The questions that you asked all of the candidates,
Yep.
where do they, first, are they your questions, or do they come from the town somehow? And second, are they somehow fitted to the town of Carver, or are they general questions you ask anyone, no matter what town or city they're applying for?
No, a good question. So we always ask, not always, we always look at critical incidents. So we'll design the question specifically to the town. So we'll use street names in Carver. We'll use buildings in Carver because we want the candidates feel like they're in Carver. They're in their own town, policing their own town. So we take questions and we design them specifically for your town. It doesn't mean we can't use a similar type of question in a different town, because a critical incident, whether it's a shooting at a Cumberland Farms or a police chase, is going to be the same thing in different communities. We look for the candidates' responses. So we can design the question for your town. We take questions, we design them specific to your town. We use real street names in your town and real buildings in your town.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
You're welcome.
Yeah. Mr. Ryan.
You mentioned the lower well, the higher well. Is there something above that? So how does your upper scale work, from lower? What are your gradations from lower well to higher and then above?
Absolutely. So if the score was 1 to 69, that's not qualified. 70 to 79 is qualified, 80 to 89 is well qualified, and 90 to 100 is superior. So the definition for the guidelines for assessment centers for 80 to 89 well qualified, the candidate has displayed a level of skill or ability consistent with an above average level of job performance for this position. 90 to 100 superior is superior. The candidate has developed a level of skill or ability that is consistent with an excellent or superior level of job performance for this position. So we're testing candidates for this specific position of being police chief.
Okay. Got a second question too. Do you keep any statistics on, when you run these tests on, people that are, or candidates that are chosen based on that, and then overall how they perform after that? Do you keep stats on, the performance of how your process works?
So we do follow-up calls to TAs and TMs after the candidate's in. We try to do them within 6 months to find out from the TA or TM how the candidate's doing. It's hard to keep statistical data on, because every town is different and every position is different. So a chief in Carver's roles and responsibility are going to be different than the chief in Plymouth, and different than the chief in Kingston, or different than the chief in Hanson. So it's hard to keep data on that, collect data. It's easy to collect the numbers, however, it wouldn't be pertinent because the scenarios we use for the towns are different. So the grade that a candidate gets in Hanson could be very different than the grade that the candidate got in Carver, because the questions were different, and the roles and responsibilities or job descriptions in Hanson for the chief may be different than that of one in Carver. So to answer your question, it's hard to keep data. So we don't keep that data. We follow up with candidates after they've been selected. Now you have internal candidates. If it's an external candidate too, getting back to the data collection, if it's an external candidate, if we did a full assessment center, meaning we did the search and assessment, if you opened it up and it went open and we did the advertising, and then we did written responses to essay questions, and we did weighted profile, weighted resumes, and we did oral interviews, then the assessment center, that's a full search and assessment. That's not what we did here. What we did was strictly the assessment center on the candidates who were provided to us.
However, as a follow-on, the role-play exercises were catered to the towns, so each of the towns have their own unique set of role-play exercises that you do, so that's your process. And then based on your process, I guess my question is, do you keep any stats on how that worked out for you? So, if you're going to do unique role-playing in different towns, and then you got to grade or, rate people on how well they did, as a follow-on, how did that process work? How are you finding that? Do you have any stats on that you could share?
We do not. We do not keep statistical data on each of the exercises, because I don't know how I'd quantify or qualify that. We don't do that.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yes, thank you. So could you just tell us briefly the first 3 categories of questions?
Sure. The first one was a critical incident. Is that what you're referring to, ma'am?
Yes.
The first one was a critical incident, and that was there was an active officer involved shooting. And that's a dynamic incident when we give information. So what ends up happening when we do our assessment centers, each candidate's brought one-on-one into a prep room, and they're giving a fact sheet. And on the fact sheet, it has the facts and circumstances of the exercise itself. Just like if they were dispatched to a call, or if someone came into their office and said, okay, chief, we have an active shooter situation going on right now, and this is the incident, or this is the information. So we give them the information up front. They get to sit in the room by themselves. It's a prep room for 10 minutes. They get to review the fact sheet. They can highlight the fact sheet. They can take notes off the fact sheet. And then we come in, we get them one at a time, and we bring them into the role play room. They can review their notes. They can take notes in the role play room. And then interactive, we give them more information as the assessment or as the exercise unfolds. They get more information. So that was the first incident, the first exercise, excuse me. The second exercise that we did was the citizen complaint, and that was a citizen coming in to make a complaint against a patrol officer regarding an interaction that they had in the field. So that was the second incident. And the third incident was a staff meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question.
Yes, Mr. Hoffman.
Have you kept track or any statistics on the number, well, I don't want to say number one candidate, but the person who scored the highest, if they actually got chosen by that town?
So it kind of depends. I don't keep stats on that. We will sit down with the town, we'll go over the scoring report with the town, and most of the time, the town goes with the person that scores number one. But we didn't do the full search and assessment for your particular town. We just did the assessment. So we don't know any of the background. Like I said, the assessors don't know the background of your candidates. That didn't play a role in this assessment because they go in blind. The assessors don't know anything about your candidates. So their education level, how long they've been a supervisor, how long they've been a patrol officer, how long they've been in your department, that didn't play a factor into this assessment because we didn't do the full search and assessment. So that's where you have to use that. I provided the town with questions so you can use any of those questions that I provided for you. And then you'll also take into consideration how long you've been a police officer in town. You should look at their education level. You should look at their job performance. Speak to the current police chief, and then you need to bring those factors in as you make your decision during your interview process.
Okay. So the assessment's only done on the exercises that you performed with the three candidates?
Correct. That's what we were hired to do.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anything else for Mr. Stevens? Okay, I guess that we have no other questions for you.
Feel free to call me. I have my phone on me. If there's anything else you need, I'm more than happy to either jump back in or answer any telephone calls as well.
We certainly appreciate your help with this process.
No problem.
Thank you.
Take care, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good luck to you.
All right. We're on time. Yeah, we're on time. So the next thing we will do is we will have our police chief interviews. The order of interviews was chosen by random draw. Sergeant Matthew Raynar was chosen to go first. Sergeant William Kelly was chosen second. And Sergeant Brian Berrio will go third. So what we will do at this point, we'll take a 5-minute recess, come back and get everyone settled, and we'll start our interviews.
Okay.
We'll be in recess. All right, good evening, everyone. We are back in session, and we're beginning our interviews for the position of police chief. Our first guest this evening is Sergeant Matthew Raynar. Thank you for coming back again this evening. We appreciate it. And I guess before we start with the questions, I just want to make clear the process that we're following. I don't think we'll be taking any votes tonight on the position. I think what we're probably going to do is take the next week or two to consider all the answers and come back on our first meeting in September and make a decision. That's currently the plan. It could change, but that's currently the plan. Just so everyone's clear. Yes.
Just one quick thing. I just want to know, and we had interviews individually with the candidates yesterday. And I just want to state for the public as well that I am I am friends with one of the candidates, and I explained it to all the candidates. I feel as though I can be impartial. My friend put my friendship aside. I just want to state that and see if the select board members have any issues with that before we go on. But I just want to state that publicly, and I also stated to each of the candidates in our meeting yesterday, everybody was fine with it, but
I appreciate
just
you.
didn't want to, just want to put it out there,
I
that's all.
appreciate you bringing that up. I personally have no issues, any issues?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman,
Okay.
for pointing that out. Before we start with our questions this evening, is there anything you'd like to say to us, or anything you'd like?
I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity to interview for this position tonight. I have over 25 years' experience. 16 of those years has been as a police supervisor. During my career, I led a unit which involved both police officers and civilians. I've also worked on the administrative side in policy development and accreditation. I consider myself to be a community-focused leader who's decisive, who believes in transparency and accountability for the police department. If I'm selected, I look forward to working together with the fire department and EMS chairs because I believe with our collaboration, it works the best for the citizens of Carver. Thank you.
Okay. Why don't we get right into it? Sergeant, what do you see as your greatest challenge in making the transition to police chief?
Yeah, the greatest challenge is you're going to go from being just a frontline supervisor to the agency head. Ultimately, now you're the decision maker, and everything stops with you. So you need to be decisive. You need to take input from your team. You need to evaluate that input they provide to you, and then you need to make a decision and stand by it. And I think that's going to be the biggest change. You know, when you're a sergeant, you can always hide behind the chief. Hey, this is my idea. This is what I think we should do, and the chief will ultimately make the decision. Once you become the chief, you are now responsible for that department, for the civilians that work inside there, the officers that work inside there, and making sure that our core values are continued.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
And I guess a good follow-on to that question is, so what experience and strengths do you have that's going to allow you to be successful doing that?
So I think this is the greatest thing I bring to this job here is that I've had a lot of experience during my career. I've spent 16 years as a supervisor. I've worked under 6 different chiefs. 4 of them I think were excellent, 2 that I learned that I didn't want to be that way if I ever got to this position. I think the most important values of a chief come down to what I consider the 3 C's. You need to be credible with your staff and everybody you work with. They have to believe what you're saying is the actual truth. You don't just wing an answer because it sounds good. You have to be coherent. You have to provide a message that everybody from your senior-most sergeant right down to your junior-most officer understands. If it gets broken anywhere in the middle there, the organization's going to fail. And I think the most important factor is to be the most consistent leader. They have to understand and expect you to be the same person when you come to that office every single day, whether you're on a critical incident or whether you're just dealing with an internal matter. One of the biggest flaws I see in chiefs is when they don't act consistent, when they treat people differently. Everybody needs to be treated to the same standard, and the officer should come to expect that from you.
Okay. All right. Ms. Hewins?
Oh, you, Ms. Jones.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Carter.
Yeah.
The town of Carver, when possible, prefers to promote from within the existing department. So have you had past experience in both mentoring and identifying individuals that exhibit certain skill sets that allow them to take on additional responsibilities and/or promotions?
I do, actually. As being a unit head before, I would identify in my own officers certain skills. Some officers might be good at doing certain types of investigations. Some officers might be better at talking to people out in public events. And what I would try to do is identify the different skills that the officers had and then really try to push them towards developing those skills when they show an interest. We just recently had a case in town, and an officer shown a lot of interest in learning how to do search warrants and how to do investigations. So we've been working with that officer, trying to show her and mentor her on how to write these forms and develop these skills necessary to interview people, to investigate type of crimes. I think that's critical if you're going to promote within.
Ms. Hewins?
Thank you. While serving in your current position, could you describe for us a specific situation where you worked to improve police-citizens relations? What actions did you take, and what were the results of your efforts?
Yep. When I first came to the town of Carver, one of the things I worked with Deputy Sarmento of and I brought over from New Bedford was the Citizens Police Academy. I thought that was a great idea. We had utilized it in New Bedford. We brought it over here. We ran it for 2 or 3 different Citizens Police Academies. And that would allow the community to come in to meet the officers, ask questions and understand what police officers are actually doing. Why do you act certain ways at traffic stops? Why do you ask certain types of questions? And I thought it really developed a community back and forth relationship. They asked us questions, we asked them questions, and they got to learn a lot of the different officers. We used several different officers from the department to teach the classes they enjoyed. Some officers like to do traffic stops, some like to do investigations, so we'd bring those officers in and have them teach the class. And this way, those citizens got to meet a whole range of officers and really develop a connection between the police and the community, more than just maybe a 2 to 3 minute interaction that occurs out in the field.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Hoffman?
Okay. How do you feel any of your past experiences in law enforcement has prepared you to fill the chief's job?
My role in New Bedford oversaw a smaller version of this type of organization. At one time, I had 5 detectives that were assigned to me, 3 full-time civilians, and about 15 to 20 part-time civilians. And I was responsible for managing, doing some citizen employee reviews, while also issuing discipline to officers when required. So I got to work on a smaller scale. I mean, it wasn't 17 people, it was, approximately 8 to 10 full-timers. But I got to learn and develop skills on how to manage a unit that way.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I just follow? The citizens, were they administrative staff?
They were. So I had a domestic violence advocates. I had 2 full-time of those, and I had one that was an intern coordinator.
Okay.
You talked a little earlier, but if you could expand a little bit, I think one of the most important things in the town of Carver is the relationship between our public service to public safety departments. And we talked a little bit about that last night, but could you expand on that a little bit and talk about how you see the cooperation between all of those departments and how you think we can strengthen that situation, and how you feel that working together really benefits the people in town?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think it's absolutely essential that all 3 departments work well together. Right when I arrived here too, and the first scene I went on was a bad traffic accident, and the fire department came to the extraction, and the police officers helped to shut the street down to make sure they were safe, and I could see that they worked very well together. I didn't always see that happen in one of my prior employment, and I thought that was an outstanding asset to the town of Carver. And I would definitely want to work on that and continue to improve on that, and continue to have my officers respond with EMS, and maybe they're able to bring some equipment in while they're working a patient, and my officers maybe on a fire scene making sure the firefighters are safe by shutting streets down, and so they're not worried about traffic trying to cut in on them, and coordinate with the department heads when we find any deficiencies or inefficiencies, or maybe something's not happening, to rectify that and address it as soon as possible.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up, and I think you mentioned, I think right now, it's our policy when there's an EMS call to send an officer out along with that. You would plan on continuing that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan.
Okay. So I think we talked about this yesterday. We have a great department, good morale, everything is awesome. And so what are the hallmarks that you would keep, and how would you do that, and what things might you change?
Yeah. So, I mean, Chief Dufali has established an outstanding department. I think we all can agree. And the main thing he's really fostered there is he's really tried to develop skills in his officers, find out what they like, get them, promote them from within, help them develop those skills. When they show an interest, really support them and get them training classes or get them involved. He really promotes community involvement, having us out there at the COA and doing events. Those are all type of events that I'm going to continue when I'm there. One of the things we're going to have to face going forward, though, is over the next 12 months, we're losing a lot of senior officers. We're losing hundreds of years of, 130 plus years of experience is going to be gone, and we're going to be bringing in some new people, probably somewhere between 3 to 4 new people. We're also going to be promoting 3 frontline supervisors, which are brand new officers into the role of sergeants. So there's going to be a transition period. And I really view myself and the experience that I have is to mentor these people, to mentor the sergeants. The first line sergeants are the absolute critical component of a police department. They're the people that are out there interacting, handling the calls, coaching their officers, teaching them the right ways to do things. My role will be to make sure that those sergeants have been mentored in the proper way that we do it here in Carver.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carter.
Sure. I think if you ask the police chief, he'd probably say this might be one of the things that he likes the least, which is the whole town budgetary process and going through union negotiations that could be stressful. Can you talk a little bit about your experience that you've had with that type of situation?
So I haven't had a lot of experience in budgeting. When I was in New Bedford, I was given a certain amount of money for my overtime budget, and what I had to do is I had to maintain under that, and if I was going to exceed that, I had to provide reasons why, justify why I need to exceed that, AKA we had a really bad investigation, I needed to go over it. I'd have to provide data behind the reason I was going to change or exceed my budget. But I had never sat down and actually done a full budget for a department, obviously, at my level at this point. So that's my experience on that end of it. What else did you ask, sir? There was another thing.
Have you ever had to, go through union negotiations, so even if from a shop steward standpoint or just from?
So I was on the E-board, and I did negotiate a contract, not this last one, the one prior. I was on the E-board, and I was involved in that process, so I got to see that dynamic play out between the E-board and the town administrator and go through that process. Yeah, and I mean, it's not a lot of fun, but we end up trying to find common ground, and we usually, Chief Dufley has been really good at finding common ground that satisfies both the town and the department. And I would hope to learn from that under his skills.
Thank you.
Ms. Ewens?
Jim, could I follow up?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I know with the police chief, I heard him say this before, with the interactions between the chiefs, there's only so much money in the town of Carver to go around. And some, every department is always advocating for their own department. Where, they may need a police officer, they may need a firefighter, they may need a new EMS. So forth. Are you willing to work with the other chiefs to compromise on what you see best for your department, knowing that another department may get something, this year, and again, you might have to wait a year or two?
Yeah.
I'm just
No,
curious
I think,
if that's a...
Yeah, collaboration is absolutely key to make this town work. I mean, with the three department heads, I'm sure they work together well now, and I have every intention of continuing that.
Thank you. Ms. Ewens?
Building trust between the Carver community and its police department is essential to maintaining public safety. How do you view the role of community connection in effective policing? And what specific steps would you take as a leader to strengthen and maintain those connections?
Yeah. Community connections are absolutely essential to any police department's effectiveness. If the community doesn't have faith or doesn't have trust in the transparency of the police department, they're not going to necessarily cooperate. They're not going to back or support the police department. So that is going to be absolutely critical. I view it as essential as the chief in creating an environment where we're involved in community events such as, being at the COA, we're out and about, we're doing a Citizens Police Academy, which I fully intend to do. I want to be involved with it because I believe that that's what creates the trust. The more they get to know us as people, we're just people that wear a uniform, that's all we are. And the more they get to know that, the more trust that you can build with the citizens.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I just ask a quick follow-up to that? As far as building trust between the community, is there any specific examples that you would give us about working with younger folks, children, that you think would be a way that you could help build a relationship between the police department and
yeah, I mean, the SRO is essential there. He's the first line of getting our officers into the schools and meeting the children and being involved with them. I also believe that we've started, if you've noticed, we've started to increase our online social media presence. We've started to do more of the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Twitter, because we're trying to draw more attention to the department, to the youth. And we're going to have to continue to find different avenues. And part of the good thing in bringing new officers, we're bringing in younger officers. And guess what? A 21-year-old can relate to a younger person a lot better than a 51-year-old. So let's be honest. So they bring new and fresh ideas, which I look to promote and to encourage as we go forward.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman.
Okay. What do you feel you'd need to work on to be a successful chief of police?
Definitely need to be a better public speaker. I can definitely give you that. I mean, I obviously it's going to be on a much larger scale than what I've used to. Like I said, I worked and I led a small unit for, almost 11 years. I'm definitely going to have to learn how to manage a budget. I have very little skill at managing a budget right now. I'm going to look to my other department heads and for mentorship, and Chief Dufley is prior to his retirement. So there's definitely avenues that I haven't had the chance to really learn yet that I'm going to need to learn. But I'm looking forward to it, and I've never been afraid of a challenge before. So.
Great, thank you.
What do you think the most important quality that our new chief must possess? What do you think the most important quality they must possess is? And could you give us an example of how you think that quality has come into play during your time in the department?
That's consistency, and I tried to hit on it before. I think the most important thing is your officers underneath you and your supervisors underneath you need to know that the person coming in the door is the same person who's going to treat everybody fairly, that he has a set standard, and that he's going to hold everybody consistently across the board accountable to it. I mean, that's Chief Dufilly to a T. As we walk in, he treats everybody the same, no matter where you've come from, what department you've transferred in from, whether you were homegrown or not. You walk in that door, you're a member of the Carver Police Department, and he's there to support you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan?
Things don't always go according to plan. So can you share maybe an experience that where it didn't go well, where there was a difficult situation, and how it turned out and what you learned from it?
Yeah, so the first day I was promoted to sergeant in New Bedford was the famous puzzles incident. So I had literally just put stripes on my uniform. I walked in the door, and then I was dispatched to a massive mass casualty incident where an individual had gone into a bar and decided to commit a hate crime against numerous individuals. Now, again, this was my first 15 minutes as being a supervisor, and there I am rolling out a crime scene tape on Fox News. It was a induction by fire, let's put it that way, learning how to handle such a large scene at once. I made mistakes. There was other supervisors came and they mentored me, taught me things to learn from that situation, and that's what I've tried to do in my career. I mean, I've been a supervisor for 16 years. I've made mistakes, but I've tried to learn from them, grow from them, and then not repeat them.
Okay.
Move forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Connor?
Sure. Public outreach is key from both the informational perspective as well as creating a two-way dialogue between the community and the police department. What methods do you feel work best, and what would you improve on?
So I definitely think that we need to improve it, and we started to recently, as much more of an online presence. Nowadays, everybody's on the smartphone, everybody's using their phone, everybody's online. We need to put more of the message out about the department, different activities going on in the department, things our officers are doing, to try to reach more members of the community. I think we do a pretty good job of getting out there. Chief Dufilly, I know, is out and available to anybody at any time for any of those meetings. I'll be continuing to do that. But I'd like to see our online presence a little bit more engaging.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
If appointed chief, what are 2 innovation programs or initiatives you would propose to enhance policing and community engagement in Carver, and how would you implement them?
So the first program I'd want to implement is I'd like to bring back our mental health clinician. We had a mental health clinician for a short period of time. This is kind of new to policing, involving mental health clinicians on the field. Obviously, as I'm sure you are all aware, the mental health crisis calls in town have increased greatly. And when we had that tool or that asset, she was able to come out in the scene with us. She was able to help diagnose the situation for officers because she's specially trained to. She could tell the officers that, hey, this is an acute situation. We need to involve medical staff. We need to get a Section 12. We need to get this person to the hospital. Or she would also be able to say, this isn't an acute situation, but I have access to resources you don't, because police officers don't have necessarily that network to get the resources out to the community. It was an invaluable tool. She was here a short period of time, and officers bought into it almost instantly, and she was very effective. So I really would want to bring back the mental health clinician part of it. And I'd also like to see us continue to develop. We've started implementing some online training for officers in the cruisers so that they can receive additional training and stuff like de-escalation tactics, implicit bias, and different skills that are coming out. Whether they're in their cruiser, they got some downtime, they can pop a training video in and watch it and try to help develop some new skills from officers.
I just have a quick follow-up. So in years past, we had an after-school program in town called YPAC, Young People's Alliance for Carver.
Okay.
And they had a junior police, the police department had a junior police explorers program that came down there and did what they do with the kids, and they loved it. If you have any thoughts on that as far as...
I would absolutely support that. Yeah, so that program might have been right before I got here, or might have been near the end when I was. But I would love to see that implemented, because we need to engage the youth. And the more comfortable the youth become with my officers, the more safe environment we have for everybody, too. And they're more apt to come forward and tell us when they know something's going on.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman?
Okay, obviously we've had quite a few questions about community activities, but my question is, what do you feel the role of the police chief is in the community activities in particular?
Is to be the figurehead or the face of the department, to be out there, to be in the community so that they know they have someone that's accountable to them, and to set the standard for the department so that we all have a mission and that my officers are following the mission, and I'm going to be out there accountable for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes most of the questions we have. Is there anything from the board that somebody would like to add, or perhaps that they thought of as the question was going through that they didn't anticipate?
Sure, let me see if I can word this properly. We're not always good at, sometimes we're good at one thing and not good at another. How are you at maybe delegating to certain things? I mean, like we talked about budgets, if, you need to learn how to do all that, but then do you have people in the department that might be really good at doing that? And how do you see, is there a way to delegate some of that to be more effective?
So I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with like narcotics investigations in my career. Most of my career has been spent on the victim advocacy side, domestic violence, family services, and administration. But we do have people in the department that are really good at, and I'll be leaning on them to handle those investigations, explain to me and teach me what I need to know so that I can be in front of that and set policies and objectives to obtain those goals.
Okay, thank you.
And I just have maybe a comment and not a question. Since I've been on the board, I've been on the board 7 years. I think one of the real strengths of public safety, and I think the communication between the police department, and that really is Chief Dufely, and this board and Town Hall has been really excellent. And I think we've had really good relations with the police department. Anytime there's been an issue, the chief has been quick to keep us in the loop, and if he needed something, he was quick to come in and let us know. And I think if you are the candidate that's chosen, I hope you'll work to continue that, because I think it really benefits the public as a whole. And certainly if this board can help you in some way in your role, if you're the candidate, I know we're willing to do that. So.
No, I absolutely appreciate that. I mean, in my career, I haven't done it with, like, say, the select board or the town council in New Bedford, but I was very involved with the civilian, different outreach advocacy groups, the district attorney. I believe in communication, absolutely. It needs to flow.
Great. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to tell us?
I know, it's pretty good range there.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't we take a brief recess, and then we'll go on with our next candidate.
Hey, how are ya?
Hey.
Hey, thanks for coming in again.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, everybody good? All right, Area 58, you okay? All right. All right. We're back in session? Yeah. All right, welcome, we are back. Our next interview this evening is with Sergeant William Kelly. Welcome, thanks for coming back in this evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
Before we start with the questions, I just want to sort of lay out the process that we're trying to follow here and make sure so everyone is aware. So thank you. I don't believe we're going to be making any votes or decisions this evening. I think our plan is to ask the questions, take a little bit of time, consider what we've heard, come back at our first meeting in September, and most likely take a vote at that time, just so everyone's aware.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Before we start, is there anything you'd like to tell us?
First, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank Chief Dufely, Deputy Chief Sarmento for their work, their opportunity for putting us in this position to take over, embrace their work fully. Chief Dufely has been a great mentor, and we appreciate all the hard work that they've put into this department.
Okay, great.
To bring us to the next level.
Thank you. All right. Sergeant, what do you see as your greatest challenge in making the transition to police chief?
I think one of the greatest challenges that I'm going to face as the new chief is with the structure moving up. We're going to face new officers, new supervisors, and we're going to have an ideal that we're going to have to embrace the knowledge that we have currently in the department to be able to bring these supervisors up to speed in a quick and timely fashion.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Ryan.
I guess relative to that is, so what experiences or strength do you have in the past that's going to help you to be successful doing all of that?
So I think I bring leadership, professional accountability, trustworthiness. I think that the officers that we have now have done a great job, and I think embracing them to bring them to their full potential is going to, bring them up. We find the value in their work every day. I also will look to find some sort of mentorship, leadership type of thing to try to find and seek future leaders and supervisors before we get in a situation like this. Encourage the officers to take leadership classes ahead of time, even before promotion. When I got promoted, you take a test, you get promoted, and you go to school, when it's available. I think we have a lot of full potential in the officers that we have now. We have a very blended mix of experience. So if we encourage these officers to start mentoring them into leadership roles even before they're promoted, I think it'll help us in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Carter?
This kind of falls under succession planning as far as the town of Carver tries to, when possible, hire or promote from within. And what experience do you have in both mentoring, identifying individuals that exhibit certain skill sets that will allow them to take on additional responsibilities, promotions, grow within the organization?
So I think that's important with the succession plans is finding that full potential in these individual officers, creating the opportunities for training for all the officers that they feel they want to succeed. I feel like, again, we have a very blended experience in the agency, some that could be promoted tomorrow. I think, finding the succession and the future leadership, it starts in the hiring process. Sitting on the hiring committee, when you look at potential for new candidates, new officers, not everybody may want to be a sergeant, but they definitely have leadership skills that you would want to find and seek out right from the beginning.
Ms. Ewens?
While serving in your current position, can you describe a specific situation where you worked to improve police and citizen relations? What actions did you take, and what were the results of your efforts?
So I feel most recently we had a citizen walk in with a complaint of not feeling that she was dealt right with a dispatch, a call. And one thing with dispatch is you may get a call from a dispatcher, may take a call. It might be 5 minutes long on the phone. However, the dispatch CAD notes may only be 2 sentences. This resident didn't understand, wasn't really grasping that. They thought that they were leaving information out, but it's generally when the dispatcher takes that call, they pass it on to the officer, and then the officer actually initiates the interaction with the citizen. Once explained that, there was no negative, interaction, how dispatch works, from my experience as a dispatcher, I explained that, you may have a 5-minute phone conversation, but the dispatch CAD notes may only reflect certain minutes because they're yielding several other calls. The feeling was satisfied, was appreciative that we explained the process, and was satisfied.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman?
How do you feel your past experience in law enforcement has prepared you to fill the chief of police role?
So I look at this as not only as a responsibility, as being, in the community in the highest level. I built my career on leadership with professionalism, accountability, community engagement, interagency relationships. I foster the community relationships that we have. I reside in the community here. I've built a lot of relationships with that, with town hall employees, public safety, and I feel that the leadership that I can bring to embrace, our officers and find their full potential and motivate them while still building strong relationships within the community. I think will make me the perfect candidate for the chief.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. We talked a little bit about this last night, but I think right now, we have a really great situation in Carver. We have a really great relationship between all our public safety departments in town, and I think that really benefits the public as a whole. Can you talk a little bit how you would you maintain and build on the trust that exists between all those departments, and possibly how you could expand that?
Certainly. So my experience is a little different. I was not only an EMT, I was a dispatcher, I was also a firefighter here in town. So my experience in relationship with those agencies is much greater and have a greater bond than many others. So our relationships are great. They weren't so great many, many years ago. And that's not by accident. That's, good quality leadership. The chiefs working well together, the officers, finding out, what needs to be done. What I would do to even strengthen that bond is to understand what each other agency's requirement of each of us is to do. What is expected if we go to a fire call? What do they need us? What do they need us to do? What is it? Is it just traffic? Do they need help? Logging hoses. I've logged hoses as a sergeant before. I think the relationship between the three public safety agencies is unique. It works well together. I think we know what each other's expectations are, and I'll continue to foster that environment with continuing to gain the respect from each, not only the chiefs, but all the other members of each agency.
Can I just ask as a follow-up? I think right now we have a policy that when there's an EMS call, we send an officer out on that call as well. Would you continue that policy?
Absolutely. I think what you have to realize is with when somebody calls 911, they're at their most vulnerable moment, right? Not too many people call 911 that don't need something, right? So, when we continue to send an ambulance, we're a first responder. We could be the very first person that's there. We could be the closest person that's there. And they may just feel that comfort knowing that someone's there, whether or not you can provide the proper care or not, but they're comfortable knowing that they called 911 and somebody showed up. Right? I think it's very important to continue to foster that environment. Again, my experience is a little bit different as being an EMT and currently an EMT. So I still do get involved with medical calls, but I would still fully embrace continuing the police officer's response with the ambulance service.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan.
So we have an outstanding police department that's, been built over the years by Chief Dufely and the leaders in that. So what are the hallmarks of the department that you would promote and keep the same, and what would you like to see change?
So Chief Dufely has done an awesome job with community engagement. As you see us, we're kind of in the spotlight most of the time doing community events. He's done and embraced that very well, and we continue to foster that environment. What I'd like to, continue to do to even further engage the community relations is, at one point we started the Citizens Police Academy. I'd like to bring back the Citizens Police Academy, Junior Police Explorers, great opportunities that, we embrace, that bring the community together, and obviously very positive feedback. Another options that I would see with continuing with the community engagement would be, coffee with a cop, but, maybe going to visit the, we have South Meadow Village. We have a very large, elderly population, and some people can't get to the Council on Aging, or, Council on Aging is limited, so maybe attend, their meetings and embrace, some of their concerns in a, public forum. Cranberry Village and South Meadow Village are the larger communities, to bring that, the bond together back with the community to address some of their concerns.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Carver.
Part of the responsibility of the police chief is obviously trying to come up with a budget that's within reason that we can, afford. What kind of experience have you had with that, as well as I know you've been involved in union contract negotiations, and what kind of skill set you think that's going to bring as you possibly enter into the role as chief.
So I'm currently the president of the police union. I've had experience being in that leadership role for several years. I've negotiated several successful collective bargaining agreements and understanding, the needs of the officers as well as the needs of the town. My experience with budgets is just what I've learned from the chief in the past, and understanding that we got to operate with our means and what's provided. Over the past several years, I've been tasked with there's a fleet manager, so each year I do the capital budget on cruises with submissions, procurement, and making sure we're staying on budget with the purchase of new vehicles and what maintenance needs to be done. As far as my experience, as far as the overall experience, that's definitely something I would be willing to learn and challenge. I've done some business and finance in my past life before public safety that I think will help me. But understanding the role of the collective bargaining agreements, the COLA raises and stuff like that will definitely be beneficial to preparing the budget.
Thank you.
Ms. Ewens?
Could I have the same follow-up?
Sure.
Can I ask? Hey, so on the budgeting, there is only so much money to go around the Carver, and we have all the department heads advocating for their own departments. And you mentioned the fleet management. I know I've heard Chief Dufley talk about this before too. Would you be willing to forego maybe a couple cruises this year if we need, let's say, a new ambulance or a new response vehicle in the fire department? Is that something you'd be able to talk to the other chiefs about to make sure that each department is being supported by the town?
So that's a great question. So what I would do, honestly, is I would look at the needs of the department. Obviously, the cruises, some cruises are aging. But I would work collaboratively with the other chiefs to find out what was the priority. If we asked for two, maybe we could get away with just one. So there's certain sacrifices that we can make. I think working in collaboration with the chiefs and the other town and stakeholders, I think would be very key to important to find out what was a priority for that year. And so much so, if we could get by without getting a cruiser, we would absolutely work to negotiate that.
Ms. Ewens?
Building trust between the Carver community and its police department is essential to maintaining public safety. How do you view the role of community connection and effective policing, and what specific steps would you take as a leader to strengthen and maintain those connections?
Well, I think the way to strengthen is to be visible. So I think, being out there, currently the police department's involved with, Carver Night Out, St. Patrick's Day, at the Council on Aging, toy drive, Thanksgiving with the COA, with the seniors. Most recently we had the summer cookout with the seniors. So I think being out in public is a great opportunity. I think the other ways that we could do it is holding some community meetings that address some serious concerns rather than see the complaints and stuff on Facebook. Maybe one of the big topics now is parking at the beaches. So maybe we bring in concerned citizen and have a meeting to discuss what would people like to see. How could we address those concerns in a different manner. Also engaging the community. Like me, for instance, if I'm not answering a call, I'll go stop by a baseball field or a football field. No kids, none of my kids are there, but it's just an opportunity to meet the public, show a face. Residing in town, people ask me questions at Shaw's or at the gym. It's just part of the job, and it's the commitment that I've worked to make and build that trust.
Thank you.
If I could just ask a quick follow-up to that, and you mentioned stopping by the baseball field, but are there any specific programs or ways that you can identify that you think the department could work to build trust and a relationship with the children in town, the youth? I think that's really important that we find ways to do that.
Yeah, so what we do is, years ago we did it actually started through the YPAC program. It's the Junior Police Explorers. It was a program that we had. It kind of fizzled off for a little bit, but that's one thing I would definitely work with our school resource officer and to try to get back up and running again. It was a summer program. It was a great opportunity for the kids, to learn different aspects, to be able to follow up to see what police really do. engaged in all different, aspects. They would do crime scene, they would do education, they would do trips to the jail. So I think it's a great opportunity to grab the eyes and ears of the youth. I'd further embrace our school resource officer program. Right currently, we have one officer assigned to the school. Now with a new comfort dog, I think, embracing, potentially, if the budget allows sometime down the road to get another officer, to expand the community outreach to the school programs.
Good. Thank you. Mr. Hoffman.
Okay. What do you feel you need? Yeah. What do you feel you need to work on to be a successful chief of police?
So I think one of the biggest challenges, like I said again, is working with a new inexperienced command staff. I think that we can overcome that really fast. I think my thing is the work-life balance is going to be different. And trying to find that balance where you take work home with you. I sometimes consider myself to be a perfectionist. I like to meet deadlines. Another challenge that I'm going to have is making sure I delegate work to the people that can actually perform those tasks.
All right, thank you.
All right. What do you think is the most important quality that our new chief needs to possess? And can you give us an example of how that quality has come into play during your time on the department?
I think integrity, public trust, and accountability, I think is the three very important factors. I think that people need to see your face, and they need to know that you're part of the community, you're engaged in the community. We look at Carver as is unique and it's different. We foster more community relations and problem solving than we do crime solving. I think once we continue to build and work on those community relationships, I think that we foster the community trust. I think we gain their respect. We're transparent, and I think that embraces a good community involvement as the chief.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan.
Things don't always go according to plan. Could you talk about one of your most challenging or difficult experiences, and how did it go, and what did you learn from it?
I'd say one of the most challenging experiences that I had as a police in the police department was, I was assigned. Prior to being promoted to sergeant, I was the detective, which handled evidence. Was the evidence officer. So back in 2013, when Chief Dufley took over, I worked with an auditor that came in and inventoried the evidence room. That was a big challenge. It had been, I wouldn't say, it had been neglected over the years. It was just a mess. So what I did is I worked with them. We reorganized the evidence room, got everything situated, accounted for, and then we came to get ready to move for the new station. That process was overwhelming. I learned a lot. Doing an evidence purge, having to meet with judges and state police and CMAS and get proper destruction orders. All in all, and we ended up moving over in 2021. We came over with very little evidence that needed seen. We had evidence still from the 70s. During that learning experience, I had thought of ways, whether or not I created it or not, I just thought of it, but try to find more efficient ways to handle evidence moving forward. So simply, we just use color-coded folders, which delineates what evidence would have to remain for a longer period of time. So now the detectives know that during a purge that they can either just go to the file, they pull out a yellow envelope, and they realize that there shouldn't be any evidence associated with it, because it may be related to a traffic citation. So that was one of my biggest challenges. It was a rewarding challenge, and I think we accomplished it pretty well.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Carter.
So we talked quite a bit about public outreach, but what do you think, based on what you've done in the past, what you've seen in the past, what do you think works best, and what do you think you'd improve upon?
So I think our community relationships are great. They could always, I mean, anytime a community, we're involved in the community, it could be better, right? I think other initiatives that what I would like to work on, and I think we discussed last evening, is that looking to get a clinician within the department, not only for, substance abuse, but also maybe a cross-trained mental health coordinator. We answer mental health calls nearly every day. We're trained to deal with the acute issue, the immediate response. We do have some resources now that have been very helpful. We had a clinician for a short amount of time through a grant that was a shared resource, although she spent most of her time here. So I think even though that they're fostering that relationship between the community, just realizes that we have a different outlook, and we embrace a different outlook of somebody that's suffering from mental illness or substance abuse. And I think that would be one of the key things to finding some sort of funding mechanism, either through grants or other initiatives, to bring back the clinician, to bring that community outreach into the department. Currently, we use the Plymouth County Outreach Program, which is great. It's a follow-up program. I was part of it when I was in detectives, where a detective goes out and meets with the family of a substance abuse disorder. And, they offer him services, and him or her services, and if they take it, then they're great, and it works. And I think it's a great program that we embrace, that I think is definitely a community tie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ewens?
If appointed chief, what are 2 innovative programs or initiatives you would propose to enhance policing and community engagement in Carver, and how would you implement them?
Well, I think I mentioned a couple of those. One was, bringing back the, Citizens Police Academy, right? So it was a very well-attended program. There's only so many people that can get into the program. I would like to, foster that again and bring it back up to speed. It gives the opportunity for people to understand that what we do as police officers, and it's very well education. And again, the other initiative would be trying to bring on board a clinician.
I'm sorry?
Bring on the clinician.
Right.
Again, building strong ties with, showing that we're not monsters, we're not evil. We recognize that there is mental health and substance abuse disorders where people need help, showing empathy and caring and compassion.
Thank you.
Mr. Hart?
Okay, we've talked quite a bit about community activities, but what do you feel the role of the police chief is in the community activities?
So I think the role of the police chief is just embracing and empowering the officers to engage in community relations. I think we mentioned something, one of the guys, the select board mentioned, Halloween, right? So, my Chief Dufley is in Deputy Chief Sarmento, they love the Halloween aspect, so we bring in officers that night, and, either the union or whatever donates candy, and the officers go out and they hand out candy or engage large crowds, and whether or not they sit there, park and idle, or they drive around and just hand out candy. I think those are things that the public sees, Carver Night Out, Chief Dufley embraces the union puts it on, but, Chief Dufley embraces that with all, gets all the support from the local agencies, provides that, won't go in the dunk tank, but, and no, I won't either, so just, so, I mean, just the initiatives where the chief just really encourages and embraces the officers to be out in the community. The chief, we have boat patrol, we have ATV patrol, right? Just bringing addressing those citizens' complaints where people can see them, driving around, stopping at, the lemonade stands in town, and just embracing the community.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. That really concludes the formal questioning tonight. Before we wrap up, is there anything else, anything from the board that people would like to bring up? Any follow-ups they might have?
No, I think we covered it.
All right. I just mentioned, not really a question, more of a statement, but since I've been on the board, and this is my 7th year, I really think one of the strengths we all have is the communication that's taken place between the police station and the select board and town hall, and I think that really helps the public as a whole. And I hope if you're the chief, you're the person that's chosen, I hope you'll work to continue that, because I think it's really been a benefit, and it's why we have such a good relationship between the select board and the police department. And if there's any way that this board can help, please reach out and let us know.
Absolutely. Communication is a key, not only here between the chief and the select board, but it's also a key to the foundation of the police department and the operation of the police department. Having that open dialogue and communication, ahead of time kind of squashes a lot of issues, right? So I think that's one thing that, that's key, to have regular meetings, staff meetings to address, any concerns before they fester. So I think open line of communication, either up and down, is detrimental.
Before we wrap up, is there anything that we might have missed, anything you'd like to tell us?
So, no, I mean, the only thing I can explain to you is, like, I moved here in 1985. I've been a resident here, attended Carver schools. I have strong community ties. I'm not more, I'm more vested into the community as a police chief. I think that would hold me to a higher standard of accountability and trust, and work and continue to build that public trust and strengthen those relationships. I've continued my education and my leadership through training, and I foster that wholeheartedly. And I think those relationships between the community and the public safety chiefs and the interagency relationships, I think, will definitely help me get off the ground and running.
All right. Thanks very much for coming in this evening, and we will be in touch.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, we'll take a brief recess, and we'll be back with our third person to interview this evening, Sergeant Berrio. All right, good evening. I'll call the meeting back to order. We're here with our third candidate tonight for the position of police chief, Sergeant Brian Berrio. Welcome. Thanks for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
Before we get started with the questioning, I just want to give you a brief overview of what we're doing, what our plan is. I don't believe we'll be taking any votes this evening. I think what we're going to do is listen to the questions and the answers, go home, take a little time to reflect on what we heard, and then come back at probably our first meeting in September and take a vote.
Thank you.
That's
I appreciate that.
That's the plan anyway. So going forward, before we start, is there anything you'd like to say to us?
First off, I would like to put out there that I appreciate everything that Chief Dufely and Sergeant Sarmento has done for our department. They have set us up to move in the right direction, I believe. And I do give them a lot of credit, because I do know and have watched the chief and Deputy Chief Sarmento take this job home with them and come back the next day and be able to recoup and gain our trust, I should say, so that we support them. Also, I would like to give you just a little bit of background on who I am. I started off very early out of college. I went to a place called Shocked Associates, where I ran some of their financial stuff. When I say that, it was at a minimum, it was an entry-level position. I did some of their book work and learned a little bit of Excel and how to manipulate that, which has in turn helped me later on in my life. From there, I spent 5 years as a licensed social worker with the department. Then I'm aging myself of DSS, Department of Social Services. Now it's DCF. But I spent 5 years while waiting to get into the police force. I finally got into the police force in Wareham. I spent 2 years as a patrol officer, and then I was elected to go to the position of DEA, which is a federal position. I was assigned as a task force officer. It was a phenomenal experience, and I'm so lucky to ever have that. I was able to work with multi-jurisdictional approach to law enforcement and touch base on a lot of different things that I don't think a lot of officers get the opportunity to do. From there, I transferred here over to Carver. Wareham was a little bit larger, and I actually fell in love with the small town feel, believe it or not. I do love that connection. I love being able to pick up the phone and actually talk to someone, go over and see someone and get something accomplished. So coming over here, I was also able to become a detective as well as a detective sergeant, and I got my stripes here, so that was kind of neat. I was able to grow within this department. And I also was assigned to the ATF for a little bit here. So, and now it's another federal agency that opened up new doors and ways of looking at new things. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you were chosen for the position of chief, what do you see as your greatest challenge in making the transition?
My greatest challenge that I see right now is developing the talent, if you will, coming into our police department. I think that we need to take a approach to really develop the new people coming in and develop our frontline supervisors into making them better supervisors to develop the younger supervisors, and to keep that role going and to make sure that we are accountable to them to make that happen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan?
Now, what experiences or strengths do you have from the past that are going to help you to be successful at doing that?
My strengths from the past, I've been privy to do a lot of search warrants and raids. When you plan a raid or a search warrant, you plan it and you pick the right people to go into the right, you allocate the right people to go in the right positions, and you try to set every part of that so that no officers get hurt, public doesn't get hurt, safety for everybody, right? But after your fifth one, you realize that every time you hit a door, everything goes south a little bit. But you gotta regroup every time after, do a debriefing, reevaluate, and take those people's strengths and weaknesses and allocate them to the positions that they suit them best. I think in a long way, answering your question, we have to do the same here. I would have to get in there. I would have to see what strengths and weaknesses people have, improve on their weaknesses, and allocate positions, different positions, to what best suit who they are and how they best can serve our community.
Mr. Cox?
Sure. Well, this is kind of along the same lines. I guess let's talk a little bit about succession planning. Obviously, you've got you're looking to have probably like a younger group in there. You know, what kind of methodology do you use to identify their skill sets and say, hey, this person might fit this track, this person might, you know, have to go to get some additional education in order to advance within the department?
I'm fortunate enough to work in a small department, and I think that the people who are here, their strengths and weaknesses shine more than when you're in a big department. So you're able to pick these out. I think that I can build people who can recruit the right type of people to come in to help build what our community-based policing approach that we have. Chief Dufley has done a great job of picking people that buy into our group thought of the community policing aspect. I'm a big fan of community policing. I think that that's what we need to build on in the future, and I want our officers to be involved in our community. And I think it goes from the top down. If we display and we act and we are involved in our community, it will trickle down from there. And I think that's the most important. I think that we have to lead by example. I'm going to be a hands-on police chief. I don't believe in I believe in delegation, and delegation and delegation, and I believe in other people having roles and succeeding in those roles. But I also believe in being there for them and supporting them through that. And I think that's important. I think that has to be a trickle-down effect through our supervisors as well. And I think that will allow the right people to be recruited into our place.
Thank you.
Ms. Ewens?
While serving in your current position, could you describe a specific situation where you worked to improve police-citizens relations? And what actions did you take, and what were the results of your efforts?
I can probably list off about 10 of those right now, but I will pick one. Recently, I had a business come in, and they had a business dispute, neighbors dispute. Their businesses were adjoining. For about 2 months, arguing back and forth, their camera's here, their camera's there. So what I did is I tried to be a little bit creative, and I said, you know what, how would I solve this? So I had them come to the police station, both of them. I sat them down, we sat in a room, and we ironed out their differences. And we tried to make it so that they don't have to be best friends, but they can coexist where they are. And I think that so far, it's solved the problem. It may not be forever, but if that problem arises again, we can surely do the same thing. And I think that that approach to almost everything, sometimes we complicate things. I think that if you just sometimes sit down, hear people out, and get people to talk to one another, doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does, and when it does, it works out well. And in that situation, it did.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hoffman.
Okay. How do you feel your past experience in law enforcement's prepared you to fill the chief of police position?
I think I have a great or a vast amount of experience in different roles. I think that in my current role, whenever things hit the fan, I'm the one that's called in. I come into the fire. I think that it's helped me time and time again, coming into high-stress situations, being able to de-escalate myself, calm down, figure out what's going on, allocate the appropriate resources, and apply those resources. I've done it. I've been fortunate or unfortunate enough. I've done it for many years as a detective. I was a detective in Wareham, and I was a detective here. So I have a vast array of tools that are in my shed, so to speak, to use when I come out to high intense situations. I think that can only help me. And I consider myself to be pretty personable. And I would implement the open door policy just like our chief has. I love his policy. I've gone in there and just said, I'm frustrated. And he'll sit down and talk to me. And guess what? I walk out of there feeling great. So, I do appreciate that aspect of it.
Thank you.
We talked a little bit about this last night, but maintaining and building on the trust and cooperation that currently exists between all of our public safety departments, I think is really important, and I think it really helps public safety for everybody out there with the relationship we have. Can you talk about how you see your role as chief in maintaining and building on those relationships?
Sure. I think that we're in a small town, small community. I think that all the heads of each organization should have a meeting and sit down and coexist together. I am fortunate enough to know most of the people in town as far as the heads, and I feel like I have a pretty good relationship with them, and I think that could work through almost anything with them if it was to help share in a budget, or you really have to, in a small town, figure out ways to allocate our little pot of money that we have, because if you don't, you're not going to be successful. And if you're greedy as a department head, the other department heads aren't going to follow suit, and that's going to create an issue long term for everybody.
Can I ask you, I think right now we have a policy where if there's an ambulance call that we send out a police response with every ambulance call. Would you continue that policy?
Absolutely. I think that building that community trust is huge, and I think that I've heard officers complain about it. I don't buy into it, and I try to show them that yes, I understand some of them can be a nuisance call, but in the long run, that same person that fell that day, being elderly or being a sister, brother, whatever it is, you're making an impact on their life, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help our community.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan.
Okay. We have an outstanding police department that Chief Dufley has built over the years, and the leadership also within the police department. What are some of the hallmarks of the police department that you would promote and keep going with, and what are some of the things you might change?
I would, like I said before, the open door policy that he has is phenomenal for the public and for his own offices. I think that Chief Dufely has done a great job of making himself accessible to everybody. I love the community aspect of it. I think we talked a little bit yesterday about this in some of the meetings. I am a big community guy. I want to maintain our community trust. I want to keep the public involved. And I want to get them involved and have them understand what we do as well. I think a lot of the issues between the public and police is they don't really understand what we do. We're there to help everybody. We're not there to hurt anyone. Yes, there are times where we have to use the iron hand to get things done, but that's not a usual thing that we do. We want to work with the public. And I'm sorry, I might have missed the second part of that question.
Oh, and what might you change? What would you do different?
I have some creative things in mind with how we could help be more involved in the community. Not that we're not, because I think we are. We do, Carver Night Out. We do the Christmas. But I had an idea that I could, assign someone to work at the COA, meaning work with the COA. They'd work their normal job, but they'd be a point of contact for the COA. I have some people in mind already that would probably do an excellent job at that. And you know what, that makes it so easy for them to just pick up the phone and have a contact. Especially, I have a 93-year-old aunt, and she's like, I don't know who to call. I'm like, well, if we can get that out to them, that they have a point of contact, then they can call that person. And once they build the trust, I think that's huge. The other idea that I had, and it's an idea to have to see if this is really going to work, but I'd like to do a community outreach person in the north sector and the south sector, have a sergeant oversee the operation as a collateral duty. That way, again, the nuisance calls that some of the offices see as nuisance calls can go through these people. They build a trust with the community and are able to actually have a point of contact. That makes it easy. And believe it or not, as you build on that, and I relate a lot of this stuff, and I apologize I've done a ton of drug work in my life. Every crime in Wareham at one point, I could solve right after it happened only by talking to my informants. And I only built those informants by being on the streets, by talking to them, by being personable. And I think the same thing in a different way here. Being able to talk, having people in these areas and having a point of contact makes it easier for people to talk. And then we have a tighter knit community that way.
Mr. Carter?
Sure. I mean, whoever is appointed the new police chief is going to sit there and look at his department, the structure, and maybe he'll want to make changes, maybe add a role or two, whatever he thinks is going to increase services to the town of Carver. But then you have to look at the reality is, what is our budget? What do my changes do to union contracts? Have you had any experience in that manner with regards to facing those challenges?
Sure. When I was in Wareham, we weren't handed money by any means. So we had to come up with creative ways to make things work, such as buy money, for instance. And again, I'm sorry that I'm relating it to drug stuff, but in order for us to build a case, we would have to get buy money, and buy money was given from the town, and oftentimes Wareham didn't have the budget to have the buy money. So we became creative. We began using the assets that we got from seizures and things of that nature and building cases upon this, and it grew up throughout time. That's just one thing that I've had an experience with budgetary stuff. There's other aspects that we talked about yesterday about how obviously I run the detective unit. Sometimes we need equipment. I try to be fair about what equipment we really need and what equipment that we don't need. So that being said, we had like things such as pole cameras. Well, pole cameras now, there's a camera on every corner of every street. So we kind of cut that out, trying to save costs. So I haven't dealt a whole heck of a lot with big budgets, but I have some experience, and I think I could learn pretty well of how they operate.
Thank you.
Ms. Ewens?
Building trust between the Carver community and its police department is essential to maintaining public safety. How do you view the role of community connection in effective policing? And what specific steps would you take as a leader to strengthen and maintain those connections?
I did just throw out a few things about community involvement in it, but I did skip over one of the most important things that I supervise the SRO now. I think getting the attention and the undivided attention of our youth and maybe implementing, I know it sounds cliche, but like a DARE program or something along those lines to bring it back into the school systems. I believe if you build from the bottom with the children and you get them to have a good connection with us, and we're seen as a positive role, that it's going to help not only their lives, but it's going to help the town in the long run, because they're going to come to us when they need something or they have a crisis of some sort, and that's what we're here for. I think that that's huge, and I mentioned the COA, and I would love to stay involved in that manner. And most of all is putting my face out there and showing the people that I work for that I'm alongside with them, and I'm not just sending them out there to do all the work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt?
Okay. What do you feel you'd need to work on to become a successful chief of police?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I think one would be over-analyzing a situation, taking it home with you a little bit. I think that can be a flaw of mine. I do take it home, I'll over-analyze it, I'll come back and think it over, and then, I mean, obviously, once you make a decision, you gotta go with it. But that's one that I would improve. The other one would be setting myself up so that I have a department and a deputy chief that we work well together and we're able to have a trickle-down effect. Again, I use that word a couple times, but to lead and be there for our guys means everything to me. The role that I'm in now, I want to be the guy that you call, and I try to set myself up now. If they have a question and they're on the road at 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. Call me. I'd rather you have someone to ping something off and be that leader than you're jammed up, or you get yourself jammed up or someone else jammed up. So I truly believe in that, and I think that's where I would try my best to improve.
Great, thank you.
What do you think is the most important quality our new chief needs to possess? And could you give us an example of how that quality has come into play during your time on the department?
Accountability. I think that's one of the biggest qualities of a chief. There's a few, I could list 3 of them, but I'll give you the accountability one. And I think that, for instance, this shooting that we had, the chief beat me to the call. Like that's pretty amazing. And I was on my way there and he beat me to the call. So that told me that he has my back and that he supports what we're doing and is overseeing. That's the guy I want to be. I want to be there first, and I want to help everyone in that situation that I possibly can to organize. And I'm just using that as an example. There are many other examples I could use.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Ryan?
Things don't always go according to plan. So what was one of your most challenging or difficult situations that didn't go according to plan, and how did you handle it, and how did you learn from it?
Again, I think being in this profession, if things haven't gone south, then you haven't done anything. But I did have, we raided a house and we had a shooting, and I was involved in that. That did not go as planned. We could have or should have had a better plan executing that warrant, and I learned a great deal from that. Complacency. You can't be complacent. In a small town like this, complacency will get you killed in my profession. So teaching that and learning and putting that out continually would be huge. And I think that I learned a valuable lesson of complacency when it was my 15th search warrant and we were just hitting a door, and that almost cost some people their lives. So backtrack a little bit, you know, after every major event, a debriefing or something along those lines to see where we can improve and where we can make this better. I think that's well needed, and I would continue that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Connor?
Sure. Again, this falls along the public outreach portion, which you've talked a little
I'm
bit
sorry,
about.
I can't hear you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
This next question falls along the public outreach portion that we've talked about in the past, and you had some great ideas, and I just don't know, is there anything that you're hearing that possibly other towns are doing that you'd like to maybe bring to Carver to increase public outreach and community involvement?
Yes, there are actually two things that I've heard of other towns doing. When we have an officer that began doing it in our town, and it's worked out great so far. Writing grants would be one. You don't leave any money left on the table that way, and it helps the town immensely with overtime. You can get a variety of different things, whether it be computers to even cars sometime. It's pretty great with some of the programs that are out there. I'd like to assign or see if someone would volunteer to go to the classes to write grants and be able to expand on that within the department. The other thing that I've been privy to is that there's a program through the DEA that you can be assigned to. All they do is they analyze. They literally sit at a desk and they analyze money laundering cases and high-profile cases, and they follow them and track them. And once they end up criminally or civilly busting them, a lot of times it's civil in their aspect, they seize their assets. And once they seize their assets, those assets go back to the town. For instance, in Middleborough, they have someone assigned to this task force, and they haven't paid for one cruiser in 5 years due to this program. So I would like to entertain, and I would entertain that if I were to be the chief here. Even if I'm not the chief, I'm still going to propose it. I would love to see that be implemented here. It gives people a chance to do something different, and it brings in money to the town, which is, I think, in a small town, is huge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ewens?
If appointed chief, what are two innovative programs or initiatives you would propose to enhance policing and community engagement in Carver, and how would you implement them?
I did touch on several different. I think that's. I would definitely try to implement something like a police explorers program that they used to have. We need something in this community for the young children, and I would gear that towards the younger children only because I think that you catch their ear at a young age and it's just easier. You know, if anyone has adolescents or teens, by that time they kind of get set in their ways, and I've been through it now 3 times, so I totally understand that. I'd like to catch them when they're young, but I would implement a program such as that. Like I talked about the COA already. I talked about maybe we used to do the Citizen Police Academy, and I found it to be fun. I taught that, obviously, I keep going back to the drug portion thing, but I taught that portion, but you can get creative and play with it. But in the meantime, you're getting the connection with the community, and they're seeing what you're doing. I would even put a part of that. We have a program that we haven't even touched at our Carver PD with the firearm stuff. And when I say firearm stuff, I mean like teaches you how to enter a building, and I'm drawing a blank on the name. It's like, I want to call it T1000 or something like that. But it's a screen that comes down and you can manipulate it. But if you show the public what we're up against, I think it educates them at the same time, and they have a blast doing it, and it builds that community trust as well. So I would entertain things of that nature as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman?
All right, we've had quite a few community activity questions, but
I think I'm running out.
but my question is, in particular, what do you feel the police chief's role is in community activities?
I think not only community activities, I think the police chief's role is to be there all the time. it's a demanding job, and not have to be there, want to be there. I think that Chief Dufely makes it to more events than any one of the officers. He's there at every event. I respect him for that, and I think our police department respects him for that. And when they see him side by side with them, it gives the right persona off. And I think that I would, and I know that I would continue that.
Great, thank you.
All right. That is the end of our formal questioning program. Does anyone on the board have anything they'd like to follow up on?
I want to ask more about community involvement.
Excuse me. Would you like me to come up with something else?
Like a written statement.
I just want to follow up briefly, not really a question, just a statement. But since I've been on the board, this is my 7th year, I think one of the things that's really benefited us and the department and everyone involved is the communication that's existed between the police department and the Board of Selectmen and Town Hall and the public in general. And I hope whoever the next chief is works on continuing that, because I think it benefits everyone in general.
Absolutely.
And if you are chosen and there's anything you think we can do to help, please let us know.
I appreciate that, and vice versa.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, you'd like to let us know that we haven't touched on?
I would talk a little bit more about community.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. We'll be in touch. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you.
Yep.
Take care.
All right. So, moving right along, the next item on our agenda, our select board announcements. Ms. Ewan.
Oh, thank you. As usual, I want to remind people that we have a food pantry for everyone who needs it, and it's called Shane Gives Thanks. It's in the Carver Square Post Office building, and it particularly, apparently, veterans who need it, but anyone else as well.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Hoffman.
Just want to hope everybody enjoys their last week before the kids go back to school, so enjoy this last week, and good luck to all the students starting school next week.
All right. Thanks. Mr. Carter.
I don't have any announcements.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan.
Just remind people as we get into the end here too, that the farmer's market, it's always a great take. They have music at the park and great fruits, vegetables, and sometimes they petting the animals there too. So just remind you of that. And then on the airport advisory committee, one of the Carver representatives resigned. I just want to let the board know that. So there's an opening. I guess we'll have to go through the process. We should probably talk to the Plymouth Select Board and find out I think there was a little confusion last time whether we just appoint that member to fill the vacancy or if we need to make a recommendation to them.
As I recall, we made the recommendation to the Plymouth Board of Selectmen.
We did, and then they asked me why we did that.
Okay.
I was at the meeting. So they said they thought that they were, we were making the appointment from Carver. So maybe we want to clarify that. Yeah. And so there is one vacancy on that, and they meet the fourth Thursday in the month just to let people know. And the main discussion has been about the runway extension, so that's going to continue on. So if anybody wants to participate in that, I guess they'd have to submit their applications to us, and we'd have to go through that process.
Mr. Cannon, can you clarify the process with the Plymouth Board of Selectmen and get it posted appropriately?
I will. I assure you that is what their advice to us last time was, that we were supposed to make a recommendation to them, but they may have rethought
There's a different board now, too.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
I just want to quickly touch on, I don't think we've had a meeting since Carver Night Out, so I just wanted to just thank everyone involved, especially the Carver Police Union, for all they do. I've had the opportunity to attend several different towns' nights out with my grandkids, and the one in Carver is really extraordinary. None of the others come close, so we're very lucky, and the union and everyone involved deserves a lot of credit for putting that together. So thank you. And with that, our next meeting will be September 2nd, and like most of our summer meetings that are supposed to be so easy and light. This one looks to be a pretty lengthy meeting, so be prepared.
My leg.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
Second, whatever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Area 58. Have a great night.